What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. NFL's free agency is just about 32 days away as I record this, so with just 1 month to go, I wanted to start my Pittsburgh Steelers free agency coverage. Now, if you want to look at my end-of-season Steeler wrap-ups, I have an offensive and a defensive video talking about how the season went, who shined at what positions, kind of breaking down how everyone played, some big-time stats, some player ins and outs. So I've got offensive and defensive videos on this channel already, but right now I wanted to start my free agency coverage with a month to go. And I want to talk first about now all of our free agents, the guys that are free agents on our team that are going to either be re-signed or cut. I want to break down every person and tell you guys whether I would re-sign them or cut them, or I'm kind of on the fence about certain people. So let's break down the entire free agency roster, who we should bring back, who we should let go, and why, and what that means for the future of each position of the Steelers. I always look forward to these videos. And right away, I'm going to start with the keepers. We're going to start with the keep pile, the guys that I would re-sign if we can get good deals on these guys. And the first one is my number one priority this offseason. Of all of our free agents, my number one priority is Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton has shown at times, especially even when Mike Hilton was here and the year after Mike Hilton left, Cam Sutton has shown he can be one of the best slot cover corners in the NFL in terms of pass coverage and just the overall technique and positioning of what a slot corner does. Cam Sutton is one of the best slot corners for me in the NFL. I think Cam has proven to be tough. He's proven to get his hands on certain routes. He's intercepted certain balls, and he also proved this season that he can play outside as well. He's very diverse. I'm not as big a fan of Cam on the outside. I think he's more hit or miss. He makes big plays, but also gets beat once in a while on big plays when he's playing against elite receivers. But he had a really good season overall. I think of all of our coverage guys, all of our corners this season, I think he had the best overall season. And I think that, especially in the second half of the year, you saw how good Cam can be on the outside. Now, in an ideal world, again, I would have two outside corners and make Cam the third corner as the starting slot guy. But in a pinch, if there's any kind of roster issues, any kind of injuries, Cam can play outside as well. So either way, he's a starting corner for us, and he's our best and most polished starting corner right now in general. So I would re-sign Cam Sutton and pay him the most money out of any free agent we have on this list this year. This one seems the most obvious to me. We have a lot of questions at corner coming into next season, with William Jackson being signed for free, basically, and then never playing for us, but having a big price tag next season. Akella Weatherspoon being really good in 2021 and not so good in 2022. Are we going to draft a corner early on in the draft? That's been a lot of talk here. So there's a lot of guys, and I'll get into all that stuff. We're going to do Pittsburgh free agent targets as well as draft targets coming up here pretty soon, but I want to focus on the guys that are on the roster right now. So Cam Sutton, I'd re-sign. Another guy who's a high priority for me that I'd re-sign, I'm going to group these two guys together. They are two safeties that are both were signed for one-year deals last offseason and are now both back on the market this offseason. I'm going to group these two guys together because I would keep them both. That is Terrell Edmunds and DeMonte KZ. I like both these guys. We signed DeMonte KZ, I think it was shortly before the draft, or was it shortly after? Well, we signed him right around this time last year to a one-year deal, and then like a few days later wound up signing Terrell Edmunds back to a one-year deal. And I really like this combination. You've got your ace, you've got your most physical and your best cover guy, your elite safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick. Having a veteran like KZ, who's led the league in picks at different times, and Terrell Edmunds, who's your best like downhill thumper, tackler, hitter kind of a safety. Now you've got that combination because KZ, I think, shines more in coverage, shines more in positioning, shines more in catching the ball. I think KZ is your fundamental kind of intercepting safety who's a pass coverage guy. Edmunds has gotten better at those things, but he's more your running back tackler, your downhill runner, your catching guys in the open field, stuff like that. He's your physical guy. So I think if you can re-sign both these guys, you can do more of that kind of non-traditional three safety looks. We started doing that toward the end of last season. KZ didn't get to play much at all in the first half of the season. So when we finally got these two together out there, and you're seeing the Minkah, Edmunds, KZ three-man safety team out there, you're seeing some different looks, you're seeing some different blitzes. You can afford to bring up Minkah in the run game. You can have Edmunds blitz a little bit. You can have KZ back in coverage. I like that look for the Steelers. It separates us from a lot of other teams and gives us more options. And I think you can get both guys back fairly cheaply. We saw last year that Edmonds' market wasn't all that big. And while he did improve this year, and he's improved consistently in the last couple of years, he's still not elite coverage guy. His positioning is still hit or miss. His ball skills are still hit or miss. So I don't think that his market has grown all that much since last year. And KZ, while being really good, still is an injured guy who missed half the season last year. So I don't think teams are clamoring too much to get him at a high price tag. So I think you can re-sign both Edmonds and KZ for fairly cheap and give yourself 3 good safeties to put out there in different defensive looks. Now I'm going to talk about another guy who's a high priority for me as a free agent this year. That's another guy I would keep, Larry Ogunjobi, another guy we signed last year on a 1-year deal. Veteran defensive lineman. He can play nose tackle a little bit. He's more of the end. He plays the edge on the line along with Cam Hayward. Larry Ogunjobi, he did miss a couple of games last year, but he's relatively healthy, played most of the time out there. I like when he was on the field. I think he was overall our second best defensive lineman last year behind Cam. I like his pressure. He gets the occasional batted ball. He's decent in the run game, clogging the hole. He's more disciplined than a lot of our younger defensive linemen. I think Ogunjobi overall is somebody you look at as an underrated piece to this team. 7 tackles for a loss put him as our 4th best tackle for a loss guy last year, meaning he's getting in the backfield and he's making plays when he gets back there. So I would re-sign Ogunjobi. This one is going to be a tougher one than the others that I've mentioned because he's going to have a market, I think. He had a bit of a presence last year, and he's played now on 3 different teams. So I think he's going to have somebody throw a price tag at him. I would try to get him back. I think he's going to be, as we're trying to kind of find our backups on the D-line, and we're trying to find who's going to be our nose tackle, as we're toggling through a bunch of young guys, I think that Ogunjobi is when he's healthy, which is most of the time, at least last year, he is our steady hand along with Cam. He's a guy you want to work with as the backups and the rookies come in the rotation and try to find that steady depth pieces and the steady nose tackle for us. So I would re-sign Ogunjobi. Now we have some guys that are kind of second tier. I'll jump ahead. One more priority that I would keep, and that's Robert Spillane. We're going to have a lot of guys on the inside linebacker track as free agents coming up here in this offseason. Robert Spillane, to me, again, he's always going to be a pass coverage problem. His pass coverage is not his strength, even though he's working hard at it. But I think he's our second most consistent player at inside linebacker behind Miles Jack. He is a downhill thumper. You know what you're getting with Spillane. He's never going to improve in his bad areas all that much, but he's never going to let you down in his good areas. He's a short tackler. He's a missile. He's a downhill thumper. He's a running back tackler, and he's a guy that can make plays when he gets in the offensive backfield. I really like what Spillane does. I think he came on strong, taking Devin Bush's spot early in the season, and I think he's a nice piece to alternate with Mark Robinson, the young inside linebacker from the draft last year. We've got this now 3-person tackling brigade with Robinson, Spillane, and Miles Jack. We just need kind of that speedster pass coverage guy that Devin Bush was supposed to be that he didn't wind up being. So I would re-sign Spillane. He might garner some money somewhere. He's had a pretty solid year and a half for Pittsburgh, but I think he would take a bit of a discount to come back here to Pittsburgh, being that he's been given a chance here for these last several years. Now are the next tier of guys who, they're kind of hit or miss. I would sign them back, but if we wind up losing them, I won't be devastated. This one I really want back, Derek Watt at fullback. We don't play him much, so if some team wants to throw money at him, I could see why he would leave to go play somewhere else and get more opportunities. I wish he would play more here. I think he only touched the ball like twice this season and probably 3 times in the time that he's been here. But Derek Watt's a Pittsburgh fullback. He's a hard-nosed blocker, special teams guy, can get involved in the pass game, although he hasn't really here in Pittsburgh, can get the goal line carries, although I think he only got 1 or 2 here in Pittsburgh. But I like Derek Watt for a bevy of reasons. He's physical. Again, he's involved in multiple aspects of the game. And obviously there's that rumor about the whole TJ, Derek, JJ thing. JJ's retired now, but all the Steeler fans want him to come back and play for us for cheap for 1 year. I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows? I would re-sign Derek Watt. I can see why he might want to leave, not getting a lot of chances, but we need to use him more. We have physical running backs now in Najee and Warren. Let's use Derek Watt, get the occasional fullback carry, but let's have him block and get it in those two-back sets more often. I like Derek Watt. I think he's underused here. Malik Reed, outside linebacker. We need depth. We need more guys because TJ Watt and Robert Spillane do get hurt. And when TJ goes down, the whole defense does lack a backfield presence. Once TJ goes down and they can double team guys like Cam and Highsmith, we have a problem getting pressure. So we do need more guys, and Malik Reed is a bit of a veteran compared to some of our other younger guys there. And he didn't play badly when he was in there, but he's just kind of there. He doesn't really get in the backfield too much. He'll make the occasional play. You can trust him to kind of stay in his gaps when he needs to, but he doesn't do a whole lot. So if we can sign him for a veteran minimum contract, then I think he's worth it for depth because he has played elsewhere, and now he's been here for a year and knows our system. So I think he's worth re-signing if we get him real cheap. But if somebody else wants to pay him like $4 million to come in for a season, I don't think he's worth that price tag. So I think he depends on what money he garners in the free agent market. Chris Wormley, he's a guy I would like back. We're still trying to kind of juggle our backup offensive line guys and figure out who to play at D-tackle especially. Wormley is by far the most experienced. Plus, started for Baltimore several years. Started for us not this past season, but the one before it a lot when we had a lot of injuries. Had 8 sacks, played very well. Didn't play much this year, was buried on the depth chart, really was hurt a lot. But when he did come in for that one game, he got a sack forced fumble and a fumble recovery, I believe. So Chris Wormley is still valuable at that D-tackle spot. We're trying to figure out kind of with like Montravis Adams and DeMarvin Leal and Isaiah Loudermilk. We're trying to figure out who's going to fit as our depth pieces. Wormley is the most sure piece we have there. Again, if he gets big money to go elsewhere, why not go somewhere else? If he's going to be like the 5th or 6th guy back here with a bunch of potential rookies and younger players emerging. But I like Wormley, and I think he's a nice, steady hand for us. Say if Ogunjobi goes down, Wormley can play on the outside of the D-line as well. So I like Wormley if we get him back for a good price. 2 wide receivers I would re-sign here for cheap. Steven Sims and Miles Boykin. Both guys good on special teams. Sims being our return guy, playing well at the end of the season. Miles Boykin being a gunner on special teams, on the defensive side of special teams. I would keep him, obviously. Boykin, solid receiver, nice receiver depth piece. Steven Sims getting involved in the kind of the running game for our offense, getting those jet sweeps. Also can do some slot receiving here and there. Both guys are underrated and valuable. Get them for cheap. Bring them both back. In my opinion, they fit here. Jameer Jones, outside linebacker, another depth guy, had a really good preseason 2 years ago. Was kind of a camp phenom for us. Didn't do much when he came in. Got cut. Got re-signed in the middle of this season. We still haven't really seen what he can really do out there, but you need guys behind TJ and Highsmith once again. So sign him for a vet min, bring him back in. J.C. Hassenauer, I think he's a valuable offensive line depth piece. I like him. He's got starting experience for us. When we had that piece together line 2 years ago, I think he was one of the best offensive blockers we had. He can play guard and center. He's nothing special. You don't want him to be your full-time starter. But if someone goes down because they were healthy all season this season, you want to get some veteran guys in there who have experience. So Hassenauer, I think, is a good vet min re-signing. James Pierre, he's kind of hit or miss. I'd bring him back if you get him for the cheapest possible. He's only going to be our 5th corner at best. We have all these guys now. Wallace and Sutton are our starters. Probably going to get a draft guy. You got a Keller Weatherspoon's a possibility. You got William Jackson, who's going to be cut and probably brought back potentially brought back under a different contract if he would come back. But I'd bring back Pierre as our 5th or 6th corner, nothing higher than that. So if he gets any real money elsewhere, I wouldn't bring him back. But if you get him for a right price, he's a good enough depth piece. And then Zach Gentry, our blocking tight end. We have 2 good tight ends already in Freiermuth and in Hayward. But Gentry's our best blocker, and he's become a better receiver in the past couple of years. He's improving in that way. He's got a big body. Good blocker. I'd bring him back. Obviously, he's a part of our good triumvirate of tight ends. Now for the guys that I'd cut. Biggest name on this list, Devin Bush. He's talked about going elsewhere. He's been tweeting about wanting to leave. He got benched for not only Robert Spillane mid-season, but toward the end of the year, he was getting benched for Mark Robinson. So he is now the 4th inside linebacker on the depth chart. He's going to get a second contract to go somewhere else, and I think a change of pace is the right place for Devin Bush. Really good rookie season, got hurt all of his second year, has not been the same since he came back, has not looked very good these last 2 seasons. It's time for him to go elsewhere and try his hand, and I hope he does well elsewhere. He's got speed, and he showed in his rookie year that he had a high upside, so hopefully he can go somewhere else and do well, but it's not going to be here. Mason Rudolph, we're going to let him go. Obviously, he not only got benched at one point for Duck Hodges, then came back in as a brief starter, didn't do very well. We proved he wouldn't be the starter by signing Trubisky last year and then drafting Kenny Pickett, both of which played well at different times, but Kenny Pickett obviously is our future guy. He's the guy they're going to go with, so at very most, Rudolph could only be a backup, and I don't even think he's going to be a number 2 anywhere, so I think he's going to go, and I think he should go. I think it's time for him. Tyson Alualu, a guy that I love. This one's hard, but I'd cut him. He is, again, buried on the depth chart behind a bunch of guys like Loudermilk and Adams and Wormley, and there's so many guys on that depth chart now that have done more than him. I think injuries plus time, father time, has kind of taken over for him. Again, great veteran, played here for many years very well, but I think he's just too old to stay on the field now. Too many injuries, too many seasons. I think he's probably going to retire. Jesse Davis, there's 2 offensive linemen here, Jesse Davis and Trenton Scott. I guess they're fine for vet min. I guess if they would come back for a couple $1,000s or whatever, I get whatever the vet min is, that's fine, but they didn't do much of anything. They don't see the field, really, so you can pretty much sign anybody off the street to kind of try and do what they do. No disrespect to them. They're just bodies at this point. Again, if we can re-sign them at some point for the minimum and they can show us something in preseason, but up until that point, we can draft some guys and bring in some other guys who might make more of an impact and have more of a stature. So I'd let go of Davis and Scott, get some fresh bodies in there. Marcus Allen, inside linebacker / safety. Both those rooms are going to be kind of full. Again, I already talked about our 3 inside linebackers that I like. We're probably going to draft another one or bring another veteran in, so you got 4 guys there. At safety, you're going to already have the 2 guys that I'd re-sign, plus Minka, plus the safety / slot corner that I can't think of. Trey Norwood, he's going to be there. Killebreau's probably going to be there as well. So you got enough guys. Marcus Allen doesn't do much besides celebrate and get dumb penalties. I'd let him go. Not really a fan at this point. Carl Joseph, another safety. Again, there's too many guys. We already have 4 or 5 safeties on this team. And Joseph looked pretty good in camp and started preseason off, with some excitement. He's a veteran, but he got hurt and missed the entire season. I think with injuries plus numbers at safety, I don't think he comes back. And then finally, Benny Snell. I don't think there's any reason to bring Benny Snell back. He's obviously played for us a little bit. He's had his good moments here, Benny Snell football and all that. I don't see a point. Obviously, Najee and Jalen Warren are 1 and 2. Who's the guy from Ohio State? Master Teague played pretty well in preseason of last year, doing the same stuff, the physical, hard-nosed guy. He's a big, strong guy that does the same stuff Benny Snell does. Plus, we have McFarland, who is a Matt Canada guy who didn't really get to play based on numbers last year. So you got 3 or 4 guys right there who can make the roster. The 1 and 2 guys are already firmly in place. So at very most, Benny Snell's a number 3. I think he can go somewhere else and try and be a number 2 back. And I hope that he does. He's shown us some nice moments here. I just don't think he's all that great. And he's buried on the depth chart here. So have him go somewhere else and try to get a shot to be a change of pace back somewhere. But I don't think it's going to be in Pittsburgh. So those are the guys that I re-sign and the guys that I cut. What do you think? Are there any disagreements here? Is there anyone that I would cut that you'd bring back or vice versa? Anyone that's going to be big money that I don't foresee here? Let's talk about it. I'll do another video at some point with other possible cuts for us to make some money. And I will talk about in the next video that I do for the Steelers, I will talk about free agent targets for us. I'm going to do a video talking about guys we can cut to save room on our cap and guys we can bring in to fill some holes that we need. So come back for that. Again, check out the previous videos of the offensive and defensive recaps and tell me in the comments below where you agree and disagree with my spots here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Talk to me in the comments. Bump these videos up, and I will see you guys soon. Go Steelers.